ancient town of Sitep, outstanding universal value. The ancient town of Sitep is the serial nominated property consisting of 3 interconnected and related cultural heritage sites, representing Tawarawadi, namely the ancient town of Sitep, Khao Klang Nok, ancient monument, and Khao Thamorat Cave, ancient monument. The nominated property has adequate size to be suitable for World Heritage inscription. The ancient town of Sitep is the only Tawarawadi ancient town that highly demonstrates all important attributes of Tawarawadi ancient town art, architecture, and culture. It has well retained its completeness and are not impacted by the current development. The ancient town of Sitep is located in Sitep district of Phetchabun province in the upper central Thailand. The area has been settled since prehistorical periods. Evidence from the excavation inside the area of Mueang Nai showed that some places inside the inner town were used as a burial site of the late prehistoric people prior. The scientific dating AMS, or the accelerator mass spectrometry, was used to date the cuspid from the skeleton number 1, which could be dated around 1730 plus or minus 30 years BC. After the late prehistoric period, this community developed and learned new knowledge through contacts with external societies, until they could learn to dig moats and build earthen town walls, and continued to develop over time. Then, around the 1st to the 5th century AD, that the evidence of religious cultural reception came from India. And after that, around the 5th to the 6th century AD, there was evidence of Hinduism, Buddhism in both Theravada and Mahayana, such as Hinduism idols, Buddha images, and religious places. This is considered as a beginning of the Tawarawadi culture in the ancient town of Sitep. The name Tholopoti or Tawarawadi in Sanskrit language first appeared in a travel account of a Chinese monk, Hian Zhang, who pilgrimaged by land from China to India in 629 AD and returned to China in 645 AD. Zhang's journal stated that the Tholopoti Empire was in the areas between the Isanapura Kingdom in Cambodia and the Sikaset Kingdom in Myanmar. Another Chinese monk, Yi Jing, also wrote a travel account about his pilgrimage journey from China to India by sea in 671 AD to 675 AD, and mentioned the ports and empires along the coastlines he passed, including the Lin Yi, the Funan, and the Tawarawadi. From a discovery of the inscription stone at Ban Wang Pai in Vichianburi district, bordering with Sitep district in Phetchabun province. Dating back to the 6th century AD, there is an announcement pertaining the coronation ceremony of one king, which shows the presence of an absolute monarchy system that potentially adopted from the Indian culture. The ancient town of Sitep is an excellent representation of ancient towns of the Tawarawadi culture in central Thailand. This ancient town demonstrates a high level of authenticity and integrity of the Tawarawadi ancient town layout. In addition, the Sitep layout has its own identity, which is different from other Tawarawadi ancient town. Sitep is the only Tawarawadi ancient town in Thailand and the only ancient city in Southeast Asia that has a distinctive double-layered or twin town layout, indicating 2 expansion within the two towns connecting to each other. The original town layout was almost in circle shape, called the Inner Town or Mueang Nai. Later, the town was expanded to the east into a rectangular shape with rounded corners called the Outer Town or Mueang Nok. Within the ancient town of Sitep, there are more than 112 monasteries, including the important places such as Khao Klang Nai Ancient Monument, Prang Sitep, and Prang Song Pinong. In addition, the important archaeological discovery within Sitep in the past was the discovery of Hindu sculptures dated around 6th to 8th century AD. These sculptures have been widely complimented by well-known scholars of the craftsmanship techniques used to create a truly round relief sculpture without a back support arch in the standing Drik Pang posture, depicting body movement. These are unique and cannot found from sculptures of other sites and empires that existed in the same period in this region. As a result, it has been defined as the Sitep School of Art. Outside the ancient town of Sitep, in a north direction, is an enormous monastery called Khao Klang Nok Ancient Monument. It is the largest ancient monument in Tawarawadi culture in Thailand. The base structure in the indented corner system, the Buawalai base, and decorative replica prasats. In addition, the remarkable layout of the ancient town of Sitep shows its uniqueness as well. The main pagoda is surrounded by 3 tiers of subordinating pagodas in the north, east, south, and west direction. It symbolizes the local belief in cosmology and Mahayana Buddhism, hence is recognized as the center of universe. This cosmological belief may have adapted from the southern Indian and central Java influences and further developed to its own identity. At the upper level of Khao Klang Nok Ancient Monument, there is a ruin assuming to be a bell-shaped pagoda from the 7th to 8th century AD. Khao Thamorat Cave is an important monastery with Tawarawadi sculptures, being considered as valuable archaeological evidence, as it might be the only cave monastery in Thailand and Southeast Asia that demonstrates shared beliefs in Mahayana Buddhism and a sacred mountain. The cave is located on the top of Thamorat Mountain. It is about 15 kilometers west of the ancient town of Sitep, on the same axis as Khao Klang Nok Ancient Monument. On the walls in the center of the cave chamber are 7 low-relief sculptures in Tawarawadi art dating from the 7th to the 8th century AD that are influenced by Mahayana Buddhism. For example, the Buddha, Dhammachak, and Bodhisattva statues. The Tawarawadi culture at the ancient town of Sitep might started to deteriorate in the 10th century AD, when the Khmer Empire became politically dominant and had more influence in the areas as they further occupied the lower part of northeastern and central Thailand. The Khmer culture flourished at the ancient town of Sitep for a few hundred more years and vanished in the 12th century AD. Thereafter, the ancient town of Sitep has been abandoned and eventually has become deserted. The ancient town of Sitep strongly exhibits key attributes as a result of interactions between Tawarawadi ancient town and Indian cultures during the 6th to the 10th century AD. Through significant cultural interchange events, it created and continued to develop its own identity, culture and art, which later significantly influenced the art and architecture of other cultures in Thailand. Its 3 heritage sites are culturally interconnected and related and are an excellent representation of communities in Theravada culture with different beliefs. Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism and Hinduism all cohabitating harmoniously and simultaneously. The ancient town of Siteb is an excellent testimony of the extinct Theravada culture and civilization from the early historic period to the 10th century AD. Its outstanding architectural and artistic forms are unique and not found elsewhere. One inscription indicates that the ancient town of Siteb accepted Theravada culture around the 6th century AD, the same period when Theravada culture was flourishing at other ancient towns in central Thailand. The ancient town of Siteb has successfully retained its completeness and a high level of integrity, has maintained its authenticity at a very high level. Although their location is surrounded by residential areas, agricultural land and national reserved forest, the area where the cultural sites are located has clear boundaries established. As a result, it has been protected from development, land utilization, and agricultural activities, original characteristics of an ancient town with moats, town walls, gates, and monasteries, and continue to be utilized up to the present time in accordance with their original purpose. A focus on archaeological conservation at the nominated property over decades has helped the ancient town of Siteb retains its authenticity of a unique double-layered town layout. Some structures are still used by locals to date. For example, the moats have been used to collect water for daily consumption and utilization. Local people from a nearby Ban Bung Najan community, west of the ancient town of Siteb, still perform a worship ceremony at the sacred Siteb shrine within the ancient town of Siteb on the 3rd day of the 3rd lunar month each year. Effective protection and management of the ancient town of Siteb and its buffer zone requires implementation of several mechanisms to ensure that its outstanding universal value, or OUV, will be sustainably maintained over time. These mechanisms include consistent and proportionate enforcement of legislations and collaboration from all parties involved, including local residents and communities. The ancient town of Siteb, the 3 cultural sites of the nominated property, has been protected under the Act on Ancient Monuments, Antiques, Objects of Art and National Museum, BE 2504-1961, and its amended Act No. 2, BE 2535-1992. The buffer zone has been protected under the National Reserved Forest Act, BE 2507-1964, the Agricultural Land Reform Act, BE 2518-1975, and the Ministerial Regulation regarding the enforcement of Unitary Town Plan of Phetchabun Province, BE 2560-2017. At present, protection activities have been implemented by government agencies at all levels, with the Fine Arts Department, Ministry of Culture, overseeing overall protection and management of the ancient town of Siteb and enforcing the relevant legislations. to strengthen synergies between all relevant government agencies. The Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, has been established to determine the provision of a strong collaborative plan that sets out a broad range of protection and conservation practices and proactive measures, as well as mechanisms for ongoing monitoring, review, and outcome assessment. Outcomes of the review and assessment will be used to support the development of future management plans to sustainably protect and conserve the ancient town of Siteb in the long term. Holistic strategies and actions will be implemented at the community level, as outlined in the co-designed master plan. Focus will be on conservation, improvement of surrounding environment, tourism management, environmental management, and approaches on how to effectively enforce local government legislations to sustainably drive protection and conservation of the ancient town of Siteb. Local residents and communities will also be engaged in accordance with the Community Involvement Plan in order to maximize protection and conservation efforts. The Community Involvement Plan is another mechanism to be used to increase efforts and build capacity and awareness in the protection and conservation of the ancient town of Siteb. Long-term goal and expectation is that local residents and communities will be upskilled and be capable of constructive involvement in the sustainable protection and management of the ancient town of Siteb.